program is part of the Scene Project's podcast network. The Scene Project features interviews with independent musicians, comedians, and artists from across the Midwest. Become part of our community and support local art wherever you are. Well, welcome into a very exciting episode of The Scene. I'm your host, Bubba Startz, and with me today is founder of On Sale Live, Dawn Farrow. Dawn, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Speaking to you from a very rainy and dark London.
I've heard it's like that. I have a co-host of our daily independent music show, Unsigned Spotlight, shameless plug there, and he lives down in Torby.
Nice. Well,
Yeah,
I hope he's having a better day than it is in London.
It's probably about the same. He said it's very, very cold, and I live in South Dakota in the United States in the upper Midwest, and I tell him that you don't even know what cold is. So
Fair.
well, Dawn, off the top, I know we got a lot of great stuff to talk about with your company that you founded just over a year ago. But I'd love to hear a little bit of your backstory off the top. So I'm just going to give you the floor and let you kind of give us a little bit of the backstory.
Amazing. Well, you know, this is interesting because I'm talking about my business On Sale Live today, but actually, who knew that sort of when I started my career, and the reason I moved to London, as I mentioned, was actually to be a dancer. So my background is a childhood of dreaming to be on the stage and literally wanting nothing more than to perform. But actually, fate or life had something different in store for me. And during my professional training, I ended up actually working behind the scenes, specifically in a producer's office, a theatre producer's office. And I started marketing musicals like Cats and little musicals like Starlight Express. And that really filled such a void, I suppose, for what was I going to do with my career. Fast forward, and that's what I did do. I marketed musicals and plays. And then I started marketing slightly more unusual experiences. So immersive experiences, large scale comedy shows that touring the world or big arena events. And so I then decided, hey, I can do this myself. I shouldn't work for somebody else. I'll go build my own marketing agency, which I did. And I had an incredible company that turned over millions of pounds, specifically working with what we now call and now refer to as the experience economy. And it was amazing. And just before COVID, I actually decided to close that business, which was incredibly well timed. And now what I do is I consult and I work on major global ticketed live experiences, such as the Friends experience or Netflix's Squid Game. And in parallel to that, I realized there were a whole host of not only problems, but also opportunities to bring my community that work across sales, marketing, and communications together. And that's what On Sale Group does. And it works in two ways. We have this in-person annual Confex every May. This time it will be happening in King's Cross in London. And we all come together. There's over 300 of us that come to network, learn, and share. And we also have a training academy that's called the Global Institute of Experience Marketing, where we actually train people in how to sell more tickets. And we train them in psychology of selling. We train them in AI for actual selling tickets, along with a host of other areas around advertising and ticketing.
Incredible, and such a massively forgotten about part of the live experience. And especially for me, because I come from the on-stage talent side of it. I'm a songwriter myself and know a lot of other songwriters and performers that what keeps us from going to that next level where we are selling tickets is the marketing, is actually knowing how to take our art and our experience that we're offering with these live shows and taking it from maybe a small bar and grill setting to the theater where but that requires a little bit more investment and knowing how to capitalize on that investment. And a lot of people would go and spend the money to rent the venue and have no marketing budget whatsoever. So I love that you kind of have the education side of it, the consulting side of it, as well as being someone who can flesh all of these ideas out.
Yeah, thank you. And also you make such a good point that it's interesting that often marketing is forgotten until we haven't sold enough tickets or got enough bums on seats, and then we start to go, oh gosh, like what should we have done? Whereas actually, part of my vision for the marketing workforce is to say, like, just put us at the beginning of the conversation. Like, let's talk about the venues you're going to. Let's talk about their database. Let's talk about how your vision for being an artist ties into their programming vision, and are we aligned, and how good is their database, and is it right for us? Those sorts of really important questions.
And it's so hard, especially for musicians. And that's obviously, the world that I come from, and that's our live experience. But we spend so much time and energy in the creation of the art. And at the end of the day, the performance that happens on stage has nothing to do with how many people are in the crowd, right? Like, it's all about the marketing, and can you package and sell that experience to people that don't have it? And so many people that we work with are independent, smaller acts, and really what they need help and what they need budget in is more the marketing than new speakers and microphones. And like, to me, that's all such secondary stuff. Nobody's going to care about your $2,500 guitar if there's nobody in the crowd to care.
No, you make a really good point. And I remember, when I was a dancer and a performer, I remember really clearly, that sense of, it doesn't matter if there's 2 people in the crowd or 2,000 people in the crowd. It's the same performance when it is happening. But I think it is increasingly difficult to guarantee people in a room or guarantee these bums on seats. And I particularly think, we're all doing more for less budget. And in that world, particularly, I think there's parts of arts and culture, such as music in particular, that really, really can make the most around fandom. And the problem with fandom is it's so flipping fickle. And, like, fans are wonderful 1 minute and also a huge distraction. And maybe that's why sometimes it's just easier to go out and buy a new guitar.
No doubt. And it's honestly, it's just out of their wheelhouse, which is why having groups like yours that are not just built for marketers to learn and network from each other, but somewhere that these, the performers or the stage experience can now come to and feel confident in the abilities of those marketers to do the job that they need to, and people that understand selling a live experience, rather, because it's so much different than selling a product.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And we describe it as experience marketing, because let me tell you, whenever, and I was thinking about this earlier today, whenever I have found great marketers from outside of live and outside of the experience economy, whilst they are great people, they stay in our industry for a nanosecond, because experience marketing is so hard, is so pressured, is so there's so much emotion in it, because you not only emotion because you want to do well and you're proud of your work, but also because of the person on stage, right? You we want to do a great job so that when you go out on stage, you feel good and you can feel the people coming back, from the audience. Like, it's a very difficult part of the marketing wheelhouse to decide to build your career in.
Do you find that it's so hard because, unlike a product or service that is solving a problem that is very tangible and concrete, that you are solving problems that are a little more esoteric?
Yes, I'm saying, come to this experience. It will make you feel like X, Y, and Z, or the benefits of being in the room are X, Y, and Z. And we absolutely rely on this kind of social proof. So the idea that, testimonials, quotes, reviews, like, they're so important to selling experiences. But that only works once you're up on the road and once you're open and once you're actually in the building. So much of what we do as experience marketers is think about, how do we position events and experiences prior to that so that we can convince someone that it's worth taking 3 hours out of your weekend, or it's worth getting the babysitter, or it's worth trying to get a group of friends together and taking part in this activity.
I'm going to make a big assumption here, but is most of what you end up doing short form video content?
Well, it's a good point. What I would say is we are seeing much more short form video, 100%. Now, what I can't work out is whether we're being pushed into that because essentially the meta algorithm says this is what we want to serve, or whether we have ever said, wouldn't it be great to have loads of short form video? Now, I think it's more about what performs best from an advertising perspective, but that also presumes that you've got great budget for advertising. What I have seen increasingly is, and this will be true of brand marketers as well, is obviously the power of influencers, which is another form of social proof, but again, to your point, is absolutely about short form video. But we talk a lot about actually needing to build the brand, which can't necessarily just be achieved through video. There's lots of different things we have to do to really talk about the values of that brand.
Do you feel like the follower counts and some of those vanity metrics are less important now because so much of it is just the short form content and people aren't really like landing on your page necessarily for that part of social proof, and that it's more that connection through personal storytelling?
Absolutely. And I remember, we would talk a lot about, you need loads of followers, like before we even announce we'll set up a new page and we're going to get loads of followers from somewhere. And you're 100% right. Now, what we talk about a lot is being seen, heard, understood. So when you're creating content across your social channels, they're the three things that you should be thinking about in relation to the community that you're wanting to serve. And it really, I'm not liking a video because I've seen how many people follow you. I'm liking it because we are by nature as humans really, quite selfish people, right? We just are. And if we feel seen, heard, or understood in the content you put out, it feels like it's for me and I think I'm going to interact with it.
Where do podcasts fit into this in your mind?
I think podcasts are a phenomenal way of building brand awareness. So they are a much more interesting way within the marketing mix to really talk more about the messaging in relation to an experience or a brand. And I think that what's so interesting about podcasts is not only the growth, but also how they now very much run in parallel to, say, a great radio show. Whilst we do call them two different things, and whether it's appearing on a podcast or running advertising around a podcast, we're choosing as a marketer. I look at broadcasts and I go, okay, is it podcasts? Is it radio? Is it video on demand? Or is it terrestrial, traditional TV advertising? So it sits side by side of those very well-established other broadcast channels.
Selfishly, I really like that last part.
Did I say the right thing?
Yeah, well, I think it's very important because I say it a lot. I'm not Joe Rogan, right? You're not going to come on to my show and all of a sudden you're going to get millions of followers and hundreds of millions of people are going to see your face. But what I am going to give you is a very well-produced show and an opportunity to share your story that then can be delivered to your people. We're going to chop it up into a lot of shorts and to share those out there. But ultimately, it comes back to the guests themselves to take that content and share it with their communities. And then hopefully that their community shares it with their communities and grows in that way. And it's been a long time training kind of our guests to say, hey, you need to know how to use the content that we're providing the production for.
You're so right. And also within that, it's so interesting because we often think of our world as being quite niche. And so you're right? This isn't about securing trillions of followers, but it's also worth us remembering as a shared experience economy that I think the current forecasts say that by 2028, the experience economy will be worth $12 trillion. So we're not some, tiny little industry that doesn't know what it's doing. We are absolutely specific, but we're niche in as much as, we are called the experience economy, but there is so much happening within there. And there's so many audiences and also so many incredible people working within it that we can celebrate. And the more, you and I are aligned in terms of that, telling people about how incredible our industry is.
And for me as a podcaster, I take my show and perform it live. We have songwriter showcases that are me interviewing an artist, but also allowing them to share their music, not unlike, MTV or VH1 did a long time ago. Now MTV completely defunct and gone, but bringing that, and yes, we are still a podcast, but we are delivering on a live experience as well. So I see a lot of alignment and a lot of work being done between the two of us and our communities in that, and in training other creators that you need to have a live experience, because with AI being what it is now and the video AI that's coming out and only accelerating, people are going to start to tune out to what they see on the internet. And they're going to want to and be involved more with physical communities. And the AI is actually driving up the value of those live experiences, at least in my mind.
Honestly, I think it's such a great thing to remind us about, because I think some of what we do, and I think particularly there was a huge rise in podcasts, say during that 3-year COVID period, for example. But what we've also seen is since then, this need, and actually this human desire to get back into rooms, so to get back into ways that we can experience things. And we saw, all of the data in terms of post-COVID, in terms of, what did people do when we came out of COVID? They did experiences. They did experiences with people they wanted to spend time with. And it's exactly the same as you getting your community together. And I get my community together on Sale Live, or indeed our training masterclasses, because we learn more, we soak in more, and all of this is incredible, right? Everything online, but we will never take away from being in person, especially when we see the rate of technology advancement. I think you're absolutely right. The implications of that is that we will want to be in person more, and we will want to see authentic people, doing their thing.
And learning and growing and networking and making friends and having conversations and all of that. I was very fortunate to attend a couple of business conferences in the last 12 months. And I'm relatively new to the broadcasting world and the business world. I was a welder a few years ago, so I wasn't attending regularly conferences and things like this. But having been to a couple, Podcast Movement, especially down in Grapevine, Texas last August, we were given one of their scholarship tickets because they identified us as someone that they want to have there. And I was so grateful to have the opportunity to go down and to talk with people inside of an industry that I was still a relative newcomer to. The podcasting industry has been around for quite a while now, almost 20 years. And I only have, at that time, maybe a year and a half in. So I was very grateful to go down, and now we're taking it upon ourselves, because I come from the live music and event space to say, well, I could put together something like this, maybe not at the scale that they did in this massive, convention hall, but I could do that inside of a venue that holds maybe 500 people, and to get creators together to explain some of these things that I've learned to other creatives in the music space and beyond, outside of that. So we're doing a creator convention, unofficial, during the week of South by Southwest down in Austin, Texas, where we're having showcases and honestly running cameras on everything, because capturing those moments and these conversations is what we're all about. So really looking forward to doing that. And it sounds like you're doing much of the same with your community of influence marketers as well. I just think that's so cool.
Yeah, I honestly, I love this, because we are so aligned in how you build a community and then you get in a room with everybody. And what I love about all of this is that it's rooted in wanting everyone to do really well. And I think that's a shift. I certainly grew up, I've been doing experience marketing for over 20 years. And I grew up where, I was very much trained to not share. So you worked more hours than there were in a day, but you definitely didn't complain, and you definitely did not share any information about what worked and what didn't. And what I love about bringing the experience economy together, so we've got theatre people next to immersive people, next to music people, next to attractions. Actually, people are saying, hey, are you having a rough time? Like, what's working for you? I had a good summer. Oh, I didn't. Oh, anything I could learn from you? And it's just this sense of like building one another up, rather than that kind of older school approach, which is like, I'll just go ahead and leave the rest of you behind. I just love where we're moving towards from a community.
Yes, instead of stabbing each other in the back with our swords, we're using them to sharpen one another. The old iron sharpens iron comes to mind here. And, something that a guy like Joe Rogan says a lot, that a rising tide raises all ships. And I think that both of us really buy into that wholeheartedly. And we are doing in our communities everything that we can to make sure that everyone is learning and growing together. And that's what's really going to change this world as a whole, is an attitude like that, and people getting together and simply having conversations.
Totally. And I hadn't heard that saying, so thank you. Yeah, it's brilliant.
Yeah. Well, Dawn, go ahead and share where everyone can find you before I let you go. And if you don't mind, I'd like to keep you around for a few minutes off camera to have a little chat as well. But go ahead and plug everything that you're doing and where people can find you.
Amazing. Thank you. So if you are a traditionalist and you like a bit of LinkedIn business chat, then I'm just search for Dawn Farrow. You'll find my face. I'm very easy to find. If you like Instagram, dawn.onsalegroup is the place to find me. And then if you just want to explore more about our in-person event in May, which is King's Cross, London, that's onsale.live. And if you fancy a bit of training, then go to thegiem.com. But either way, find me on one of those channels, ask any questions. If you would like to, see what we're offering, be part of our WhatsApp community, join the newsletter. Honestly, just come and engage, explore. It would be lovely to see some new faces.
Yeah, well, I'm going to be jumping in on all of that stuff as soon as we jump off camera here. But Dawn, thank you so much for giving me some of your time today. And thank you for being part of the scene.
Thank you. And thank you for having me so much. It's been great.